Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Popimedia. Now, during our main discussion today, we'll look at a survey on how small and medium enterprises use technology to boost innovation. The survey was sponsored by SAP, and they will be joining us to talk about their findings. Remember, you can be a part of that discussion by following us on Twitter. We are on handle at SABC Network. You can also use the hashtag SABC Network should you wish. Let's start with your technology news. The city in the picture behind me is Johannesburg. Well, the picture is going to come up in a moment, but more money moves in this space than any other place in Africa. But this week it emerged that there are flaws in Joburg's online security system. The city's website for municipal invoices became vulnerable as residents' private information became public. This includes names, addresses, account numbers, PIN codes, and financial details. This latest incident marked what is a troubling trend with the city's billing system. Producer Telecom gives us just a bit of information on this.
The City of Johannesburg's billing system appears to be in a terminal crisis mode. Unfortunately, the online debacle of the last week was not an isolated incident. Earlier this month, the city was forced to apologize to the family of the ailing Nelson Mandela. The city incorrectly delivered an arrears ultimatum to the former president's home in Houghton. The notice stated that over 6,000 rand was outstanding and that the municipal services to the Mandela House would be cut off. The city blamed the error on a system upgrade, saying that occasional errors could occur during the process. The Mandela incident was the most high-profile one. For a very long time now, ordinary residents of the city have not had much recourse. Many of their grievances, because they are not as high-profile, often go unheard, such as these residents of Eldorado Park.
You feel like committing suicide because you don't work.
Sleepless nights.
And they are threatening us on top of that with lawyers.
When I got my first payment, it was 29 rands. I paid the 29 rands for 3 months. The fourth month, it came back 3,000 something hundred. Where does it come from?
This week's breach of personal data on the city's website has been blamed on hackers. The city's billing website is still not back online. Telecom Network.
In South Africa, Telecom Mobile has been forced to change the wording in its SIM-Sonke ads. This came after Cell C lodged a complaint with the Advertising Standards Authority. One of those ads is behind me at the moment. Cell C's argument at ASA is that Telecom Mobile does not tell the full truth. One untruth is in bold letters, according to Cell C. It states that if you're paying more than 29 cents, you're paying too much. These ads say this is South Africa's lowest call rate. Cell C says that's only for Telkom to Telkom calls. And the low rate is only in areas where Telkom has full network and not using other providers for coverage. Cell C has managed to win, and Telecom Mobile will have to change the wording. South African mobile phone network operator Cell C is to spend 200 million rand to upgrade its network. The plan will focus on the country's wealthiest province, Gauteng. 100 new sites will be added in the next few months, 19 of these to start operating before August ends. When it launched, Cell C was largely dependent on Vodacom. This expansion plan means it will now become increasingly independent, so that should mean Cell C lines will be clearer than before. Nigeria has launched an e-ticketing method for Lagos's bus rapid transport system. The bus system was launched in the country's biggest city in 2008. Its purpose is to make the public transport experience a bit easier for the passenger. The electronic system introduced this week has been welcomed by Lagos bus commuters. Some say it will take some getting used to.
The bus rapid transport system in Lagos caters for about 200,000 people every day. It is made up of over 100 buses. 200,000 people means loads of different routes and loads of different dedicated bus lanes in the city. Since it was launched back in 2008, the BRT system has offered an almost traffic-free commute, something that was unheard of in this city of almost 20 million people. And now the cashless e-ticketing service promises an even easier experience. It will allow passengers to purchase an electronic card and top it up on the go.
Needed to bring a system that would make public transport interesting to them, and to reduce so many things. Number one, it saves cost. Number two, it reduces people carrying money around. Number three, it allows we regulators to monitor what is happening. And number four, the operators themselves, there's a lot of cost savings there.
Even though it's still an unfamiliar process for commuters, some are enjoying their convenience. Buses are equipped with an automated collection system. It electronically deducts the fare when the passenger's card makes physical contact with the device. For those still clueless on what to do, there are officials who are happy to assist.
It's a better alternative in the sense that sometimes one may be returning home late and the ticketers are not at the bus stop. You can easily board the bus.
There are those who say it will take time for them to get used to the new system.
We need to be reminded on how to use these cards because we are not yet used to it. Someone should be positioned here to remind us how to tap out because we think so many things in Nigeria.
The e-ticketing method is part of the Lagos state government's effort to revamp the public transport system. The state says it is essential it does this as it expects the city's current population of 20 million to double to 40 million in the next decade.
In Zimbabwe, mobile phone network operator Econet has been told to go back to its old tariffs. Last week, we told you that Econet had slashed call rates by up to 60%. This meant some customers could pay as little as 10 American cents a minute at peak times, and calls could be just 1 cent a minute at off-peak times. Now, the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, POTRAZ, is saying no one can cut call tariffs by more than 50% without its approval. POTRAZ has ordered Econet to return to its old tariffs. The mobile phone network company used Facebook to announce that its plan to cut call rates had been rejected. On Wednesday, concrete for the first Meerkat antenna foundation was poured at South Africa's SKA site in the Karoo. This marked the official beginning of building the square-kilometre array. It is believed to be one of the most ambitious science projects ever undertaken by mankind. The project aims to help radio astronomers understand how stars and galaxies were formed. It should also figure out if there is intelligent life out there. Countries involved in the project are now campaigning for cash.
The SKA will be built in South Africa and Australia with some stations in 8 African partner countries such as Botswana, Namibia and Zambia. Once fully operational, it will be one of the largest science projects in the world. It will be at least 50 times more powerful and 10,000 times faster than any other radio telescope. Construction is to end in 2024. But the question of funding is an important one right now. As host countries, South Africa and Australia are expected to contribute significantly towards the funding of the SKA. The two countries, however, say there is a ceiling on how much they can contribute.
It's a working budget, and we hope as we proceed with the project that government will continue to provide support to this, which is a government-supported project. But we have the funding available for what we need to do at the moment.
It is now up to 10 member countries to cover these costs. Other countries that are part of the project are China, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. These countries are actively recruiting other nations to join. The one they seem to be wooing the most is the United States of America. USA is expected to eventually join in 2020. When they do, they and the European Union will be expected to foot most of the bill. For South Africa, hosting the SKA potentially comes with enormous economic, technical, ICT and scientific benefits.
That Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer is stepping down. He has been at the helm since 2000 when he took over from Bill Gates. Ballmer will continue for another 12 months until a successor is found. The surprise announcement sent shares surging. Analysts believe this could mean people are excited about a possibility of new blood coming in. That new blood would probably help compete better in new media spaces such as tablets, smartphones and other gadgets. In the United Kingdom, it has emerged that there are rubbish bins which collect data from people's mobile phones. The company manufacturing them says the trial phase of its project is misunderstood, but ordinary Londoners are worried that they are being spied on.
It may look like a harmless high-tech bin, But this recycle bin found in the streets of London is apparently a spy. The trash can has been accused of spying on passers-by by allegedly collecting data from their smartphones. This accusation has raised privacy fears amongst Londoners.
These days, information absolutely is power. More and more organisations are looking into the use of data. If they're not doing it already, it's likely that they will be in the future.
A London-based firm called Renew placed the bomb-proof recycle bins in London's financial district prior to last year's Olympics. These fancy bins that feature screens displaying latest updates, adverts and public information were replacements of traditional trash cans that are sometimes considered as bomb threats.
And I think what happened is we were very much just trying to count on the street, but then the story became about future use cases, and the story became not really even what the technology can do, but for example, what it might be able to do.
In May, the firm installed a new device on some of these bins, and this device is known to have software that detects nearby smartphones and collects data from them. But according to Renew CEO Kaveh Memori, this technology trial has been misunderstood.
Even if you take it to that extreme end, it will never be "Hello, John," because it will never know who you are unless you volunteer that information to it. It will know that it's a device. And that's where I think a lot of the concerns were.
The collection of data through people's internet activity has been an ongoing debate since the United States online surveillance program expose.
And moving to Finland now, in the last week, mobile phone manufacturer Nokia saw its debts being cut further into junk by ratings agency Moody's. The downgrade for the Finnish company comes after Nokia bought out its partner Siemens. Last month, Standard & Poor's also reduced the Nokia rating. Nokia has experienced cash flow problems as there is a lower demand for its products. They've also cut more than 20,000 jobs and suspended the company's dividend for the first time. In July, Nokia also reported a 27% drop in the number of handsets sold in the second quarter. And with that, let's go to a quick break now, and we'll get to our discussion on that survey on SMEs and technology when we return. You can be a part of that discussion by finding us on Twitter. We are on @SABC Network. Don't go anywhere.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader. As the biggest, the most extensive, diverse news organization and the best content provider of choice in Africa, we aim to offer the nation breaking news, continuous content update, and current affairs programming throughout the day. We are extremely devoted to putting the news in context and providing the nation with the news they want in their own language. We reflect the world to the nation and the nation to itself. This is SABC News. All local, all global, all the time. Exclusive to DSTV.
You're watching SABC News. I'm Laurette Morgan, and you can join me every weekday between 10 and 12:30 for AM News.
I'm excited for the first time. I'm not only going to wait for 7 o'clock news or 6 o'clock news.
For all the latest breaking local and international news, come and unpack the news day with me every weekday at 10.
Welcome back. Small and medium enterprises view technology as an important element in their operations. Recently, SAB reported this as one of the findings in their international survey on SMEs. SAB stands for Systems Application Products and Data Processing. This was a joint study with Oxford Economics. Joining me in the studio to discuss this study a bit further is SAB Africa Head of Ecosystems and Channels, Desmond Nair. But before we get into that discussion, here's producer Lebo Sijake explaining what SMEs actually are exactly.
According to the European Union, small-medium enterprises, otherwise known as SMEs, are considered as engines of economic development. The sector helps the country with various socio-economic issues, such as unemployment and poverty.
Because of this job, I can manage to put food on the table for my family. I'm a breadwinner at home, and I can also contribute something to the community as well.
SMEs are usually started by ordinary people with big ideas. These ideas have potential to build self-sustainable communities. A shoe factory in Yansaville in the Eastern Cape is a perfect example of the latter. The small enterprise was started by 7 young men and women with a dream to build a manufacturing empire.
We are hoping in the future to expand more and actually do some other products, also shoe products that we need to do. There's 3 products that we need to run at the factory, but at the moment we are currently busy with the one that we've marketed, the one that we've got a lot of orders in.
Data collected by the South African National Innovation Survey suggests that these enterprises contribute about 34% total employment and more than 30% of total gross domestic product. Though small businesses seem to be the answer to the country's economic problems, some of these projects still encounter challenges which vary from managing of inventory to receiving funding for the increase of production and better services.
When the department give you the money, they give you the target saying we must do 7,000 per month or we must do 6,000 per month, but you don't reach that amount because of slow market. And if you don't have market, you can't be sustainable.
Lebo Sijake, Network.
And remember to be a part of our network by finding us on SABC Network on Twitter. To tell us about Oxford Economics and SAB's findings on SMEs and technology is SAB Africa's Head of Ecosystems and Channels, Desmond Nair. And sir, hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Now, what made you decide to do the survey?
You know, when you look at SMEs and what they do around the world, they are the engines of economy. And if you look at South Africa, they're driving 57% of the GDP. 6 out of 10 jobs are SME driven. And it made sense for us as an organization to look at the changing market dynamics and what its effect is on the SMEs and the SME audience as a whole. And so that was the primary reason for us driving the survey.
And your findings, anything startling there?
A couple came out as very interesting, by the way. This attitude of having a borderless mindset. So today, almost half of South African businesses don't even traverse the border of South Africa. They just work within the country. Going into the future, most businesses, in fact, only a quarter now would stay doing business only in South Africa. So a lot more traversing outside the country. The second thing that came out very importantly is that many of the businesses we spoke to, and we spoke to over 100 in South Africa alone, 2,100 around the world, told us that they've made no change. Half of them have made no change in their business for the last 7 years. So the changing market, no change doesn't make much sense. So the other thing we found out was that 89% of them say they have to make a change. And they believe that technology is key to them making those changes in the organization.
Were there any differences in how South African businesses use technology as opposed to how other countries or businesses in other countries use technology?
Absolutely. So what we found coming out very interestingly is that social media is a big investment point for South African businesses and SMEs specifically. So in the next 12 months, South African businesses and SMEs will spend the most amount of money in social media. And that was very different from what's happening in the rest of the world. I think we're a little bit later on the social media side, but we're catching up very quickly. The second and third thing that came out very interestingly, and that's more in line with what's happening in the rest of the world right now, is there's a lot more spend planning to be done in analytics. So they want to be able to understand what happened in their businesses historically, but also more importantly, be able to predict what will happen in their business going forward. So that's some of the changes we've seen. They're also looking at mobile and cloud now. Mobile specifically because many small business owners and SMEs are the CFO, CIO, CEO, and so they need to be on the road. So mobile's taking off very quickly, and cloud to help them gain the efficiencies of technologies very quickly.
Right. Are there businesses that, in your surveys, that you found that they're using technology but they're not conscious of it?
Absolutely. So many of the businesses we spoke to say, well, what is cloud? But when you really look at it, all of them are using some kind of email service that's based outside their premises. So by default, many of them are using cloud and not realizing it. Mobile is another big factor. So when I talked about social media, many of the businesses use Twitter, Facebook, etc. On their mobile phone and haven't really got to the point where they're understanding that they're actually using technology to connect with their customers already.
What are you hoping to do now with this survey?
So the survey has provided us with a lot of input. It's now our job as an organization and as SAP to go out and ensure that as a starting point, we can help these SMEs become more competitively aligned with larger businesses. So by using technology, as many of them have said, we can help them drive an innovation agenda so they can start to see the benefits of technology in accelerating them forward. But more importantly, also in terms of helping them understand how business can benefit from technology.
All right, Desmond Nair, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, let's take a short break. We'll discuss apps and hashtags on the other side.
Taking a teaser on this.
For decades, the SABC has provided a ringside seat for the events that have made history in South Africa and across the globe.
The SABC has opened a window on our world. We talk to people making the news
so you can make sense of events
in your preferred language
and moments in history that truly changed the world.
Whenever news happens, you are there
because SABC News is there
when you want it. Our news gathering draws from the SABC's extensive network across the globe.
At the heart of it all is this state-of-the-art studio.
And from the sports field, all the interviews, color, and in-depth analysis from around the world.
It's comprehensive.
It's trusted.
This is SABC News,
Africa's news leader.
You're watching SABC News. I'm Laurette Morgan, and you can join me every weekday between 10 and 12:30 for AM News.
I'm excited. For the first time, I'm not only going to wait for 7 o'clock news or 6 o'clock news.
For all the latest breaking local and international news, come and unpack the news day with me every weekday at 10.
With so many bad incidents happening around us, we continue sourcing, unpacking and televising nation-building and compassionate stories. From the nation's pride, those who go all out, top achievers, hard workers, those dedicated to making this country a better place, and unusual friendships. Catch all these and more on SABC News.
Welcome back. Remember, you can be a part of our network on handle at SABC Network on Twitter. You can also use SABC Network as a hashtag should you wish. We often have a gadget or discuss an app during this segment. Today we have a guest who has designed several apps, mainly in the e-commerce space. Gil Sperling is the Chief Technology Officer at Popimedia. Popimedia is Facebook's only preferred, Gil is Facebook's only preferred marketing developer in Africa. Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Now, what goes into designing these e-commerce apps?
So basically it starts objective down. So we try and understand what the objective of the business is, and we design the applications to work that way towards kind of catering for what they need and what the requirement of the users is. So essentially in terms of e-commerce, we've done a lot of work for the banks, of course, and the bank's objective is to try and reach as many users as possible. And to obviously provide their technology and access to their, to their functionality, to being able to do transactions. And we try and design the applications to try and make it as transparent and available as possible.
And are businesses taking advantage of that?
Absolutely. So I think more and more so, I think what's happening now is that there kind of used to be, or there still is, a vanity around social media in terms of businesses wanting to have more and more fans, where you kind of got to ask yourself the questions, what does that mean for the bottom line? you don't actually see fans on your balance sheet, you know. So like you say, businesses are adopting social media more and more and realizing that they need to integrate it more and more into different business functions.
Okay, and does the consumer understand as well what they're doing when they're clicking on like on Facebook, for example?
Yeah, so it's a very different, very different view, a very different angle of what the consumer or what the user experiences to how the business designs the experience. The user, of course, we try and develop the experience as seamless and as easy as possible to make it as natural as possible. The idea of social networking is for you to kind of replicate what you have going on in real life in terms of social networking. So as long as you try and maintain that principle, the design that we execute usually caters to allowing the user to be as natural and have as natural an experience as possible.
Now tell us a bit about the apps that you've designed.
Sure. So we like to think of it in two categories. One is marketing. So we work a lot with big brands in South Africa and we aligned with their above the line or below the line, marketing ideas and marketing concepts and strategies. So just as an example, we've done work for Yogi Sip, where users, using your profile on Facebook and the information that you have available on Facebook, as well as your activity on Facebook, we're able to say how cool you are relative to your friends. Another one is Currycraft, where the rationale of that campaign was that your couch holds the biggest secrets about you. So what we've done is, again, we went into your Facebook profile and we created a little video that you would share among your friends about your deeper secrets.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, sure. Gil Sperling, thank you very much for joining us, and we will be checking out some of those apps that you are designing.
Sure, thanks for having me.
All right, sure. And let's take a look at some of the tweets, Facebook messages and blogs we've been observing in the last week. A lot has been happening and we couldn't share all of it. As conversations on who will foot the bill on the South Africa and Australia hosted Square Kilometre Array, Kinnaby decided to put up this picture of SKA satellites in Australia. The picture is on the Kinnaby Tumblr. In South Africa, suspended General Secretary of Trade Union Confederation COSATU Zwelinzima Vavi has broken his silence. He has been tweeting again, and one of his tweets is on the Tripartite Alliance and reads, "Regrettably, Alliance has not functioned in a manner wherein all components can claim to be driving revolution together." The other tears at his critics who are members of South Africa's ruling party, the African National Congress, and reads, "Can't take responsibility for highway robbery through commodification, e-tolls that will leave people poorer." He further tweets, "In your book, to be ANC is to tolerate corruption. To be enemy is to fight e-tolls and demand public transport system, pro-poor policies, etc." Zambia and Zimbabwe will now become co-presidents of the United Nations World Tourism Organization until 2015. A Facebook user posted this on the site, while Lukwesa Tuba on Twitter said, "Anything that has to do with the development of tourism in Zambia puts a smile on my face." And travel blogger Laura Robbins has been in Namibia, and her Instagram page had this picture, part of her good times in the southern African country. And remember, you can let us know which blogs, Facebook pages and Twitter handles you're following. We're on @SABC Network on Twitter. South Africa ends the country's Women's Month this week. The month is to honor women who marched against past laws that black people were required to carry during apartheid. These women went to the country's union buildings on 9 August 1956. To end the month and to honor women, we have decided to play out with a slide of women who are doing amazing things in technology spaces from me and the rest of the team. See you on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and other digital spaces. Have a good one.
SABC News plays a critical role in providing unbiased and reliable news. We have a well-established reputation of uncovering, reporting and delivering news. A significant growth in popularity of our news demonstrates the demand for our news content. We continue to provide unrivaled coverage of vital events in and out of the country. Wherever the news is happening, we'll be there to bring them to you at the right time. No one has the news covered like SABC News. We lead and they follow. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Hello and welcome to SABC News. I'm Lulu Gabu. Let's take a look at our top stories. A significant increased wage offer by the Automobile Manufacturers Association sparks hopes that the strike will soon be over. The ANC in the Northwest says it will abide by the National Disciplinary Committee's decision to reinstate 14 Tlokwe councillors that